2024 was a year filled with ups and downs for your Washington Nationals, but let's get down to the thick of it. What went right for your 2024 Washington Nationals?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out wherever you get your podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, and of course, over on YouTube. Again, just search Locked On Nationals, and that is where you'll find your daily coverage of the Washington Nationals. Later on in today's show, well, first and foremost, today's show, we've got one main topic. What went right for your Washington Nationals? Not what went wrong. We're going to get to that tomorrow, and there was a lot that went wrong. But also, we're half glass full here on Locked On Nationals. There was a lot that went right. So we'll discuss that really all show today. But in the second segment, the final segment, you could be getting a Daniel Hudson versus Juan Soto at bat, and it's going to look pretty cool. We'll have that discussion a little bit later on, and who would you root for in that scenario? And also, who will you root for, the Dodgers or the Yankees? You've got some ties to both teams here, again, with Daniel Hudson and Juan Soto, both playing in the World Series, so we'll have that discussion for you a little bit later on in today's show. But today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, and you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. We get started here discussing the main topic of today's show, October 23rd, 2024. What went right for your Nationals in 2024? First and foremost, the number one thing that I believe went right for this team was CJ Abrams becoming an all-star. And I think we kind of choose to forget with how the season ended with CJ Abrams. But his first half was phenomenal. Really just great. Over his first half of the season, around, from the beginning, opening day, all the way through mid-July, CJ Abrams was a legit all-star. Like, no doubt about it. Over the first half of CJ Abrams' season, he batted .268, a .343 OBP, and a .489 slug. That was an .831 OPS. He was legitimately one of the better offensive pieces as far as shortstops go in the National League. He deserved that all-star spot. You saw the steps that CJ took in the first half of the season, really dating back to last season as well. In the second half, when he had that breakout, stole 40-plus bases, it was just simply awesome from mid-July on. CJ Abrams' first half, though, I think that is the real CJ Abrams, if you know what I'm saying here. I think CJ, again, with how the season ended, just about a month ago, he was caught being out at a casino until 6 a.m. or however late it was. It was too late. That's regardless. That's beyond the point. But CJ Abrams was still a success story in 2024. And you can choose to remember his final 190 at-bats, how he hit 203 with a 586 OPS. It was bad. That part was really bad. But also, for a majority of the season, let's say 3/4 of it, CJ Abrams was an all-star. And he was voted to be an all-star. And he was your Nationals all-star. He had an all-star caliber season. His offensive numbers compared to other shortstops, like let's say former Nats shortstop, Trey Turner, he blew him away. Now, Trey Turner kind of picked it up a little bit as the season went on. His numbers were pretty damn good because it's Trey Turner. You all know he's one of the better shortstops in baseball, defensively and offensively speaking. But CJ Abrams is 23 years old. This is still a kid. This is not someone who we truly kind of expected to have this kind of a breakout season. If you expected him to be an all-star in 2024 as a 23-year-old, then congrats. You're one of the only ones. But Abrams was certainly a success for this Nationals team. And he was one of the big positive spots of 2024, in my opinion. And even then, it might sound a little weird saying it now, considering, again, how the season ended for him. But CJ Abrams, in my opinion, was developing to be a leader in the clubhouse. Now, we don't know what was happening behind the scenes, but one thing is for sure is CJ Abrams was there for James Wood when he got called up to the bigs. He gave him advice on how to be an everyday big leaguer. Dylan Cruz as well, and all the other prospects that came up. Darren Baker, guys like that. CJ Abrams played a big role for this team. And while he didn't have the stolen base numbers as he did in the second half of last year, that first half of the season, he had 15 stolen bases. That's not enough. But still, he was one of the bright spots of 2024. And if you don't feel good about where Abrams is sitting here today, then I don't know what to expect. I don't know what you should be expecting at this point in time. But I can tell you this, CJ Abrams was one of the brighter spots for me in 2024. Second, Luis Garcia Jr.'s breakout. That was a bright spot. I'm going to be honest with you. In spring training this year, I was ready to cut ties with him. I was ready to say, let's see Trey Lipscomb. Let's see what Trey Lipscomb can do after he killed the ball in spring training, had a great season last year across AA, single A, high. Trey Lipscomb was killing it for your Nationals. I was ready to say, Luis Garcia Jr., let's DFA him. Let's try to trade him for whatever you can at this point and move on with it. It's not going to work. We've seen Luis Garcia Jr. His numbers aren't going to improve. Well, he told me to shut up because his numbers improved. At second base this year, Luis Garcia Jr. was a top 3 offensive second baseman in all of baseball. Top 3. Right behind Ketel Marte, as well as Jose Altuve. 2 guys who are in the MVP conversation. Not this year, but who won Ketel Marte, who will be down the line, and Jose Altuve, who has won the award a few times, or been in the conversation a few times, rather. Luis Garcia Jr., having 18 home runs, doubling his total from last season, batting .282, a .444 slug. First time he's gone over a 400 slug since 2022 when he had a .408, and had a .762 OPS, a .115 OPS plus. Luis Garcia Jr. was probably your most consistent National in 2024. And even then, you could probably make the case that he was your MVP. He was better than Lane Thomas. He was better than CJ Abrams overall. And he was your Nationals' best player, in my opinion. Even better than Jacob Young, because again, you know me, I prioritize offense. Garcia Jr.'s breakout this season has opened up a ton of different roads where the Nationals could go down with him. If you tell me today he's going to be your second baseman in the future, him and CJ Abrams will be that partner, that duo for the next, hopefully, 5+ seasons, I'd say, okay, let's do it. If you were to tell me that Luis Garcia Jr. will be trade bait this offseason, like I think the Nationals will ultimately decide to do, then I say let's do it. This has opened up a ton of different roads for which the Nationals could go down. And again, if you're a Nats fan out there, which if you're watching this podcast, I assume you are, this is a win-win scenario for you. Either this is the Luis Garcia Jr. that we see moving forward, where it's a good offensive productive second baseman, or you trade him, or you figure out where Luis Garcia Jr. can play. Because he was 2 home runs shy of having a 2020 season at just 24 years old. CJ Abrams had a 2020 season this year. And if Luis Garcia Jr. can do that, you have 2 guys in your lineup, along with James Wood, who could easily have a 2020 season. That will be of value to a team anywhere, in any sort of contention moving forward, especially in today's game. So I thought Luis Garcia Jr., CJ Abrams, 2 of the brightest spots of the Nationals in 2024. We've got more. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more to get to here. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, I'm going to tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at FanDuel. And of course, NFL fans, you can start the season, really just get into the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. So you can get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Again, visit FanDuel.com, and if you're new, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Maybe this weekend, it's the Commanders. They take on the Chicago Bears. You think Terry McLaurin didn't score an anytime touchdown? Boom. $5 bet, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with our friends over at FanDuel. And of course, download America's #1 sportsbook today. That is FanDuel.com, and download America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, we are getting into what went right for your 2024 Washington Nationals, but stay tuned for the later discussion of Daniel Hudson against Juan Soto, 2 Nats legends, 2 2019 heroes for your Nationals that played pivotal roles for your team to win the World Series. Who will you be rooting for, the Dodgers or the Yankees? We'll have that discussion for you a little bit later on in today's show, but we continue on this road with what went right for your Washington Nationals. And one of the brighter spots that, if you know me, it's a tough pill to swallow, but this was a very bright spot in 2024. Jacob Young established himself as a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. And by the way, he should win the Gold Glove this year. Now, let's just get into the good before I talk about some other things with Jacob Young. He was second in Major League Baseball in outs above average with 20. He was first in Major League Baseball with runs prevented. He was tied for first in success rate. And this was not just center fielders. This was all defenders out there. Jacob Young's season in center field, you could have made this case. And honestly, I don't even think there is a discussion here. He was the most valuable outfielder in all of baseball. Should be a Gold Glover, #1, and he might even win a Platinum Glove. That is how good Jacob Young was this year for your Nationals, roaming around in center field. And we talked about this a lot of different times. This is where I kind of come in and my bias comes in here. I've said everything should be about Dylan Cruz and James Wood. Now, when I say that, both those guys, their really natural positions are out in center field. I think one of them should be in center field. But when you have Jacob Young establishing himself as an everyday Gold Glove caliber defender out there, how do you move off that? If you go out there and you try to tell these players we are giving everyone the best chance of winning, and you don't have Jacob Young in center field, that is an issue. Now, I would go about things a little bit differently here with Young, because again, the offensive production just simply is not there for me of what I want to see from a center fielder. But he is actually close to doing that. If Jacob Young could just get on base a little bit more and strike out a little bit less, take more walks, if he can simply just get on base more, we are talking about a huge piece to this Nationals team moving forward. I'm not going to discount that. Jacob Young in center field is that valuable. Led the team in WAR. That's not something that you should just throw away to the side, which admittedly I have done plenty of times with him. But he is so close to establishing himself as a big part of this future. And if he does do that, you've got a center fielder. But let's continue to talk about what went right for your Nationals team. And of course, another stat that I did want to get into, second in success rate added for Jacob Young. That was one of my notes that were left off the bottom there, but I did want to get you that right then and there. Another positive for the Nationals. Might get a little bit weird, but I'll explain this. The Nats move off of Lane Thomas for 3 different prospects, and they moved off at the right time. I love Lane Thomas. But similarly to Jacob Young, the future is about James Wood and it's about Dylan Cruz. You need to make room for those guys and also have room for Jacob Young while considering Lane Thomas is not really a part of this future. He is a great player, great against left-handed pitching. You saw what he did down the stretch for the Guardians. He was a huge part of how they got to the ALCS and how they even competed throughout the ALCS. Multiple big home runs in the ALDS. The NLCS as well, killed it for them. But you moved off at the right time, and you got 3 prospects, and you also saw Jose Tena, one of those prospects, play a big role for this team in the year of 2024. I think Jose Tena has a future for this team. I truly do believe that. I don't know where that lies. I don't know if that's over at third base. I don't know if Nationals decide to throw him out in left field. I don't know if they try to move him over to second base. I don't know where his future lies, but I can tell you this. There's a part of me that thinks that Jose Tena could be one of those guys where you look back at this trade and say, we got Jose Tena in this deal. Young, still under control for the next 6+ years. Jose Tena, now again, he's not going to make the biggest difference in the world, but he is someone that you can build with, in my opinion. And also on top of that, you have Alex Clemmie. This is a legit left-handed pitching prospect, just turned 19 years old, has a huge strikeout rate, still has the walk rate, but again, he is 19 years old. He had his ups and he's had his downs, but you've seen the potential there with him. The Nationals are stockpiling talent in the minor leagues, and you have 2 guys from this trade deal that could be legit building blocks for this organization over the next few seasons. Now, it's going to take some time for Alex Clemmie because, again, he's still a teenager. He is still 2 years away from going to a bar and buying a drink. But Alex Clemmie has the potential to be, whether it's going to be a nasty bullpen piece or it's going to be a DJ Hurst kind of mid-rotation kind of guy. And talking to the Locked On Guardians guys, they really like Alex Clemmie. He does have his kind of woes of what this guy can do, really what his ceiling is. He has a high ceiling, but he's got a really low floor. So it's up to the Nationals of developing this pitching talent that we have now. And again, for organizations that are rebuilding, which the Nationals, they're likely at the end of it, hopefully. But Alex Clemmie is one of those guys who could really help you down the road here. And I think he certainly will. And also Rafael Ramirez Jr., kind of one of those lottery ticket prospect guys. He adds depth with high upside. He's shown that he can hit. Just last season in 2023, had a really impressive season in rookie ball. This year in low A, it was overwhelming for him, but you saw the defensive upside there as well. Rafael Ramirez Jr. is just one of those depth guys in the organization that you really need. And he does have the potential to have a little bit of power, play solid defense, and be an all-around decent prospect. The Nationals, they made the right decision there moving off of Lane Thomas when they did. Another one, 2 more successes for the Nationals. Kyle Finnegan. He wasn't all that great in the second half, but similarly to CJ Abrams, he was an all-star, and he should have been. I think the Nationals should have traded him at this last deadline. I think his value was as high as it ever would be, considering he's got a few more years left to control. But the Nationals decided to stay put, and you have an all-star closer. I don't think he would be a closer for a team that is like the Yankees or the Guardians or even the Dodgers, but he's got potential. And if the Nationals, if you do take that step up this year and you think that you will contend and you do contend, then you have a closer to help you out. Kyle Finnegan, while again, if it was up to me, he would not be my closer, but he proved that he can come in and save the day when he wants to. And speaking of pitching, I think probably one of the bigger slept-on storylines of the Nationals in 2024 was Sean Doolittle. Your former Nats closer, he proved that he can be an asset to this organization. The Nationals of years past, they have never been an analytical organization, but you're starting to see that turn. And it's at the right time, by the way. When you're in this rebuild, you need to try something new. The Nationals have abandoned analytics for quite some time, for being honest. But now you have a former player that is on this coaching staff that helped this team win a World Series, that was with this organization for a lot of years. And Sean Doolittle is that middleman between the players and the analytical side in order to help players reach their tip-top ceiling. I don't think you see the same Mackenzie Gore, DJ Hers, Mitchell Parker, and Jake Irvin as well without Sean Doolittle. Having that voice, be a former player, and also be that analytical guy holding the clipboard, helping guys out. I pointed this out a lot this season, but go back and watch any Nationals game from 2024. When Mitchell Parker would get pulled from the game, or DJ Hers, or Mackenzie Gore, look who they would be talking to immediately after. Not Jim Hickey. It would be Sean Doolittle. Sean Doolittle was a huge help for this team and a huge boost for this organization, in which you need analytical guys so badly. It's 2024. Analytics matter in today's game. The Nationals abandoned that for quite some time, but with the addition of Sean Doolittle, you've brought that back, and I think it made a huge difference in the 2024 Washington Nationals. So, speaking of former Nats, with Sean Doolittle, two of his former teammates in this World Series, Daniel Hudson, Juan Soto, Dodgers, Yankees. Who are you rooting for? I'll answer that after I tell you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks. And of course, I've told you guys many times, but PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. And of course, I can tell you this, you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and my home state, Virginia. I can tell you, PrizePicks puts its members first with all withdrawals that are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And of course, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So let's get into it now. With the Nationals, you've got former Nat Daniel Hudson and former Nat Juan Soto. Dodgers versus Yankees. Who will you be rooting for? I hate to say it. The New York Yankees. I'm rooting for Juan Soto. Does it hurt a little bit watching your former superstar that was homebred here in D.C. go out for the New York Yankees and have all that success? A little bit. But he's still a national, in my opinion. I just look at this guy and I'm like, I love him. Wearing number 22 for the Yankees. And also, by the way, I hate the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers stink. I just can't get over what they did to the Nationals way back when in the postseason with Clayton Kershaw coming in relief, shutting the door down, our final out being Wilmer Defoe thanks to Dusty Baker and that staff. That was an atrocious way to lose back in 2016. It just was. But looking at that series for the Nationals, it's just ever since then, I've hated the Dodgers. I just have. I hate the Cardinals for what they did in 2012. I hate the Giants for what they did in 2014. I hate the Dodgers for what they did in 2016. And the Cubs for what they did in 2017. I'm a hater. So, I'm rooting for the New York Yankees. I want to see Juan Soto go out there and get a second ring. And by the way, if we get a Juan Soto, Daniel Hudson at bat, how electric would that be? Daniel Hudson hasn't really been his 2019 self. He has been through the ringer here, recovering from a torn ACL, but he is back, and he had a really good season, in my opinion, for the Dodgers. They're going to use him in the World Series. And I think eventually you will get to see a Daniel Hudson versus Juan Soto at bat, and that'll be an electric atmosphere. If you're a Nationals fan watching that in prime time for your Nats, we'll see who wins that battle. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.